I was on vacation in 1998. We were at Yellowstone, and we were at Old Faithful, the famous geyser that erupts on a pretty regular basis. And if you ever go there, you'll see from a far distance from the opening, there's a whole bunch of benches that they have sort of in a big U around it. And a big clock was counting down to the next eruption. And so we went out there to sit there, and all of a sudden, a lot of people started gathering, and hundreds of people were gathering. And then I noticed that they were taking out digital cameras to take pictures. Some were digital, some were still video floppy, and some were film cameras. We were right in that transition period. And that's when I turned to my wife, and for the first time I said, "It's happening." And she said, "What's happening?" And I said, "Well, the digital camera's coming. I worked on this many, many, many years ago. And I always envisioned what it would be like, and then you work in your life and you do your thing. And then in your real life, all of a sudden you just come across and it actually happened, and it was like amazing, and I had really never spoke to her about my early work in digital photography. One, because, she likes crime novels, not digital cameras. And also, it just wasn't terribly interesting. I had moved on and worked on other things related to digital cameras, but I hadn't talked about that one prototype that I demonstrated in '76. And so that was where my work life met my real life, sitting on a bench in Yellowstone.
Must have just been the most bizarre experience to look at.
It was. I felt like I was sort of watching a dream, because I had, in '76, we had very in-depth discussions. I demonstrated the camera, took pictures of people in a conference room.
Yeah.
And when we talked about what potentially the future would be like, what would a camera look like? What would an electronic photo album look like? Why would people look at TV sets and stuff? And why would they look at the picture electronically instead of prints? And we had these discussions, and they were all visualizations of the future.
Yeah.
And then you keep working on these different pieces of it in your work life. And then just one day you're on vacation on another part of the country, and you turn around and you see that vision actually happening with strangers from all over the world. It was a bizarre experience.
Yeah.
And yet that's the story I like to tell, because that really happened. I just, yeah, there it is,
I bet you just wanted to be like, I did that. All of you people taking a photo, that was me.
No, I just felt it was like, it must be like if you were an explorer and you're the first one to go to a big valley or something, and you see it in its sort of virgin state, and then you come back many years later and there's cities there and streets there, and it's not you did it, it's like you had a chance to see it before any of this happened, and you had a chance to visualize what may happen. What amazed me is the visualization came to be actually almost exactly what we were predicting. And it was great. It was kind of interesting because I had no real basis for making the predictions that I did. I had no data, You just sort of said, I think this will happen. I think this will happen. And when they asked me how long it would be, believe it or not, I said 15 or 20 years. And that was in the spring of 1976. So that was in '96. So I was off by about 2 years. But I just was guessing using Moore's law, kind of thing.
Yeah.
So yeah, you have those moments, as an inventor, you're lucky if you have that moment where you can do something, and then many years later, it actually shows up in real life. You could be there or not there. You don't matter anymore. It's the invention's taken over and it's there, and it's like kind of fun,
It's incredible. It definitely shows how quickly technology moves, that you created the digital camera. And I saw pictures of it when you first created it, of a box, and it was blue, all these wires. Yeah. And now we're clicking buttons on phones. It's incredible how quickly things move.
Well, when they asked me, how long I think and all that kind of thing, I basically estimated that if we could get to 2 million pixels, now like your iPhone has 12 million pixels, right? So I said, if you could get to 2 million pixels, you might be able to make a 3R equivalent print that would be satisfactory for the average consumer. And I thought, can we ever get to 2 million pixels in something, you know, that's reasonably affordable? And I really had questions if it was going to reach that point in my lifetime. Back in '76, that's where we were, you know. So you're right, it moves very quickly. Way faster than I ever thought, especially in the last 10 to 15 years. The image quality that you're getting from the DSLRs now, or just from your cameras, is incredible, you know.
Yeah.
And I would have never guessed it. There's an old expression that engineers get applied to engineers, and I think it's true, and that is that engineers always basically overestimate what they can do in 5 years and underestimate what they can do in 20, you know. And I think in my case, it was like 30 to 35 years. I couldn't even imagine. If you had said, oh yeah, everybody would be walking around with a 12 megapixel camera, you know, the size of your thumbnail that's in your pocket, and everybody in the world would have them, I would have said, how? You know, how is that possible?
Yeah, it really is crazy. And then the most bizarre thing is that a lot of people are going back. A lot of people are then buying Polaroid cameras and disposable cameras. And
yeah, I know. Isn't that funny? I think that's kind of one of the strangest things. It's like I worked for many years in printing as well. When I sort of left cameras around 1990 because we had built a digital DSLR, and it looked just like a DSLR today. It worked really well, memory cards, and the company refused to market it, you know. And I said, okay, you guys are out of your freaking minds because this is going to happen. And then I went to printing, which was the digital printing. So the other half of the equation, how do you get the pictures, right? And so I spent a lot of time in prints. And the irony is that a lot of the young people today really don't know prints. They'll buy a Polaroid printer and they'll pass it around at the bar and hand out prints. It's a novel experience to them. And I keep wanting to remind them, no, that's the old way of doing it.
Yeah, you're sat there like, I fixed this. I did it better.
We worked our whole life, so you didn't have to do this, right? So, you know, I think, yeah, inventors have no control over the destiny of their invention, I think.